Okay, class. You know that we've been learning about the civil rights movement because we've been studying the southern region of the United States. And so for us to learn more about the civil rights movement, I've planned this activity called a visual walkabout. Now, a visual walkabout is done with any kind of images. These all came from Discovery Education. They all have something to do with the civil rights movement. There are 10 pictures around the room, 10 photos. So what I want you to do is when you travel with your team, your partner of 2 or 3, you each have a pencil and you're going to look at the picture and take a very careful observation of who's in it, what's happening, where it's taking place. And then you're going to think about how do you think that image, that photograph, connects to the civil rights movement in the South. And then I'm sure you're going to come up with questions, at least at many of these photographs. So write down the questions you have about maybe what you're not sure what's happening or who's in the image or why it's happening. So write down your questions. As soon as you're done with an image, since we have some empty stations, just move to another image that interests you where there isn't another group. And then you can repeat the activity. Make sure that these papers stay with the image. It does not travel with you. Okay? Are there any questions? Yes?
Do we have to make a connection with every picture that we go to?
No, but remember you have 10 images, right? And you're only supposed to visit 5. So if you go to an image and you say, you know what, that image does not interest me, I don't have questions, then you will have a chance to go and look for another image, all right? And if you're at an image and both of you just have no clue about it, then if you can't make the connection, I bet you have lots of questions, all right? So maybe you may not be able to make a connection. Maybe you're very confused about the image, and therefore you're going to ask a question. Okay, and Danny, thank you for being my videographer. Don't worry about it, I'll get it.
Okay.
Just try not to move the camera too much, okay? Because it makes the people looking at this that get seasick. Oh, the other way. Thank you. Okay. All right, are we all ready?
Yep.
Okay, go travel in your teams.
Where is Martin Luther King?
Okay, so you're saying you think the connection to the civil rights is Martin Luther King? Maybe you could write under connection Martin Luther King. That's your connection, right? Did you read the signs? Okay. So remember, what's our topic?
Right there it says equal rights, so they're demanding equal rights. Yeah, but there's a white piece.
Ah, so maybe that's a question. That kind of looks a little odd, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Think about what... Yeah.
He's like in a corner and the rest of them are in like a room.
Like the room. Right, what do you think this might be? The what?
The classroom.
Mm-hmm. So is he in the classroom or outside of it?
Bridges. That's Ruby Bridges.
Oh, very good question. So you want to know if that's Ruby Bridges. Does it look similar to some of the pictures?
Because it looks like he's carrying like a school book or something. Yeah.
Okay,
And there's
good
like people
observation.
shouting. There's white people.
Dog because it's a Negro dog or something?
Maybe that's a question. If you think that that's what you want to investigate, we could check on that.
Why do they have a dog?
I will tell you something. All of the images on Discovery Education have an explanation for what's going on. So I wouldn't have known right away what this could have been, but I know exactly what it is. So later on we can talk about it.
Yeah, after I think about it.
All
now
your
I see what it
images, you
is.
can get the details. It tells you all about what's going on. Some connections anyway, thought. Connection. Do you have a question? Any questions come into your mind? Oh, you already wrote the question. Boys and girls, can I have your attention a minute as this way? Remember, we're all going to look at 5 different images. So make sure, how many of you have gone to at least 3? See hands? At least 3. You haven't done at least 3?
5.
Well, no, at least 3.
Yeah,
Okay. All right. How many have done at least 4? Okay, then let me see. How many have not done 5? Just a few. All right. So since there's only like 2 groups that have 1 more to go, if you've done 5 images, feel free to do a 6th while you're waiting for the others to do 5 images. Okay? Thanks, guys. Okay. Well, thanks for coming to the floor, and we've gathered up our images and our various connections and question T-charts. Kind of look at what you thought, answer some questions, and as I said to a few groups, you all are very good when you use Discovery Education videos and images. You know that before you put it in a project, what you have to do. cite it, right, and that they do those citations for you. Well, if you're doing an image, on that same page that you go to get your citation is always a description of the image. Some of these, I wasn't sure exactly what was going on with them either until I looked at what was written about the image. And that's a real important thing when you're doing research, when you're using images, to make sure you know what the image is showing, okay? So I can kind of get the background information. Some of them I knew, but many of them I didn't. Let me get a feeling for you. Fist or five, how many of you found these images interesting? Fist or five? Oh, a lot of fives. Okay, not four? That's okay. Good. 5 and 4, but mostly 5s. Awesome. That's a very interesting picture. So go ahead and tell me what was some. Oh,
Why are the African Americans going to school?
so why? That was a question, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Why are the African Americans going to school? All right. What do you think? Why do you think an African American? Why does anyone go to school? What? Yeah.
To get knowledge.
To get knowledge, right? Well, what made that special, though? What made that a unique picture? It's not just a picture of a regular classroom. Yes.
It looks like it's white people and African Americans.
Are there African Americans in the classroom?
It looks like an African American teacher.
Actually, if you look very carefully,
And class.
that African American student is outside of the classroom doors.
Is he Martin Luther King?
Oh, is he Martin Luther King? No. But I didn't understand this image until I read about it. So guys, as you know, we're learning about the southern region of the United States, and one of our topics is the Civil Rights Movement. We have a small group doing extra research as part of a jigsaw, using the Discovery videos and other resources for your information. But this morning we have a real opportunity to talk to a class, Miss Howe's class, from Greensboro, North Carolina. And something very special happened during the Civil Rights Movement in Greensboro, North Carolina. And so before our video Skype chat, we're going to learn a little bit of background information about what happened in Greensboro in 1960, I believe it is. And we're going to be watching 2 video clips from Discovery Streaming that give you a little background about what happened in Greensboro. Now, while you're watching the video, I want you to be very focused with this. I want you to come up with some thoughts, some questions you might have as you're watching or right after we're finished watching those video segments, so that when we Skype with Miss Howe's class, we can ask her these questions and her students these questions. Are you ready? Perfect. Okay, I'm going to turn off the lights. Now, the first video segment is a very quick one, but you're going to get introduced to these 4 gentlemen. All right, turn this up.
In black school, in a city that liked to think of itself as progressive, despite Jim Crow segregation still very much the law of the land.
Now, before we go on, who's heard the term Jim Crow? Okay. The Jim Crow segregation laws. What can you tell me about segregation that you know in the South? What do you know? Yes.
Segregation was when the blacks and whites were separated.
Very. Right. They couldn't do anything together. You're right. The blacks and whites were separated. Separate schools. Right, separate drinking fountains, separate playgrounds, all these things. Exactly. See where it says the colored waiting room? Black people were called colored.
But what
at that
was
time.
lacking is interaction on a regular basis with people who are outside
Imagine
your
living like
color.
that. Would it be easy?
When that generation
All
came
right.
alive, the movement was transformed and everything else fell into place behind that new movement.
Now, who was that was just speaking?
Martin Luther
Martin
King
Luther
Jr.
King Jr., right. And so, you know, this was, and who started the movement? Was that Martin Luther King that started that sit-in? No, it was young people who saw that the laws, the Jim Crow laws, were not fair to all people. And they protested by actually just sitting at a lunch counter, just sitting where they weren't supposed to. So I'm going to give you a minute to write down some notes, and I'm going to say, Callie, while they're writing down some thoughts right now before we finish the video, so hopefully you thought of these thoughts. definitely the video clips have given you some background information, and so we'll be able to have a really nice conversation with Ms. Howe's class. How many of you have questions that you wrote down? Great. Can we hear a couple of those questions? So if you want to read your questions, come on to the floor, please. I know some of you are still sitting. What? Just give me your best question. Phoebe, what's one question you may ask?
Why were they so strict about coloring?
Okay, why were they so strict about the colors being separated from the whites? Okay, or that. Now we call the people African Americans, right? That'd be a good one. Yes.
They wanted to stop it more black or white.
Oh, which group of people wanted to stop what? The Jim Crow laws?
Like, yeah.
Like the separation, the segregation.
White want to stop it from being separated from black or black.
Okay, so were there white people that wanted to stop the
So
segregation?
one more question, and then we're
going to talk about, and I'll let Callie stop because we're running low on batteries, but in a minute. But we'll come up with an order so we know kind of in an organized way how we're going to be asking these questions. What was one question you had, your best one?
Were there more whites or blacks?
Oh, like in the southern region? Okay, and you know what? If Ms. House can't answer that question, guess who gets to research it?
Me!
Yes, you. Okay, you can turn that off. We are so excited to see you guys. We're in the midst of learning about the southern region. And one of the things that we need to learn about is the civil rights movement. And Ms. House told me that you guys live in a very special town that kind of relates to the history of that. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay, so Ms. House, you want to tell us a little bit about what you want to share, and then we have some questions. Oh, because we did watch 2 video clips from Discovery Streaming about it, so we have a little background knowledge.
Oh, that's great. Okay, Alexa, why don't you go ahead? So we were going to tell you a little bit about the lunch counter movement. Who else knows something? Okay, Hunter.
What kind of jobs could black people have?
So they were wondering what kind of jobs African American people could have back in those days. Like, one person wanted to know if they could be a police officer.
All right, let's see. What do you think, Lily?
Well, they could be like a janitor or something like that. And also be arrested, not just black.
Like if they were helping the blacks? If they were helping the African
No,
Americans?
if they did something wrong.
Oh, if they did something wrong, if they broke a law, would they arrest white people?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
But they could also, and one of your students mentioned that white people would get in trouble for helping the black people, right? Again,
Well, thank you so much for
this was
your questions, because I think you prompted us to learn a little more, as we were reading and kind of look for some of these answers.
All right, well, thank you so much. Can we give